Welcome back. We're back because the Premier League is back as well, and so it is time for the predictions. And before we get into those predictions, there's a few things that need to be addressed. This is a one video setup. This is the only video I couldn't avoid making here in this setup. Ignore the fucking tapestry behind me. Nothing really I can do. This is where I am at the moment. I'm here for a few weeks, and the only video that I can't put off making while I'm here is the predictions video, because the Premier League starts while I am here. There are videos that will be coming out in the usual setup that we will be getting back. With the next video, we're going to have home Prem kits, away Prem kits, third kits that are out at the time that I may eventually make the video. Then finally, the final kits video will just be going around Europe. I'll be finding kits that I think are very good around Europe. I'll look at all the kits. I won't make an entire video looking at every single kit and rating every single kit, but I will be finding the best and also the worst kits, and also some kits of clubs that I support, essentially, specifically Rio. I'll look at the Rio kits specifically. Oh, and then also after that, when the window ends, I'll rate every single Prem club's window, and I'll have a deeper dive into Tottenham's window, and then finally I'll do a preview of Tottenham's season. Once the window is probably done, I'll preview the entire season, how I think it will go, and my reservations and what I think will go well in the season. That's enough background to the video. Let's just get into it. So unlike my Euros predictions, I'm not going to do any points. There's not going to be any point system. I don't think, at the very least, we might. When I get to when I review the predictions, I might decide on a point system. Then I might think it will work then, or I might have thought of something then. But right now the plan is I'll just give it a rating. Give it a 1 to 10 rating. Look at where I went wrong. Look at where I went well when I do the review of this predictions. And without further ado, let's get into 20th place. And I don't think the relegation opposition here is quite as bad, anywhere near as bad as last season. And I think maybe it would have been a bit tough. I wanted to give them more. It's like the Luton story. It's probably even... It's a bit less than Luton's story, but I think this is even a worse team than Luton. It's Ipswich. Obviously, it's Ipswich, the team that nobody expected to go up. Unlike Luton, they got automatic promotion here. They didn't have to go through the playoffs. They've actually done it like purely a merit. But I still think this is a championships team. This is fully a championship team. There have been no big signings. They kept Amari Hutchinson, and that's their biggest signing. He's still really a championship player, if you ask me, and because of that, I think I just have to go with them in 20th. Unlike Luton, they have good relegation opposition to go up against this season. They really didn't do anything in the window, and I just think they're even worse than Luton were. So for that reason, 20th place they have to be. 19th for me. I might get a little bit of flack on this one, but it's Everton. I think Everton have been sitting on borrowed time. They've been lurching around the relegation zone, just about avoiding, and I think this is the season they finally go down. Last season, they really got out of it because they had that points deduction, but there was genuinely the 3 worst teams probably ever to grace the Premier League at the same time. Like, crazy. They were absolutely woeful, and this time, I think the fact that Everton they look so bad, and also have lost Onana. They lost like a rotation option in Dobbin as well. I think it's not going to be a good year for them, and I think they are going to lose their never been relegated. I think they're finally going to. 19th, Everton. Well, 18th, I've gone with another team that got a point deduction last season and only made it out due to the terrible teams that were there. It's Nottingham Forest. I think, just like Everton, they were sitting on borrowed times, just the slightest bit better. Maybe they swap in the end. Maybe it's Forest 19th and Everton 18th, but I think they will be going down this season. They've signed another bunch of randoms from nowhere, the standout being Milenkovic, despite all their FFP. I think Milenkovic is really the signing that's maybe put them above of Everton here, really. I think he's a decent player, but they don't have enough for me to stay up, which is why I put them down as going down. Now, the team just about avoiding relegation in 17th, in my opinion, will be Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves. They finished 14th last season. I think this season it's only gonna get worse. They've lost Maximilian Kilman. They've lost Pedro Neto, and I think it's going to be a bad and even worse season. I do not rate Gary O'Neill as a manager at all. I doubt he will last the entire season, as boss, and they really haven't signed anyone to replace anyone just as far. The problem with Premier League predictions is that you really have to make them before the Premier League starts, but the transfer window isn't finished yet, so there could be transfers that come in and completely change this. But as things stand, I think Wolves have to finish very low. 17th is what I've gone with. Like, they lost against Rayo in a preseason friendly, and I may be a Rayo fan, but even I can see that we are going down with a record low points in La Liga. It's not going to be a good season for Wolves. I put them down at 17th. 16th, I've gone with Leicester City. It will be a bit of a nothing return season for Leicester in the Premier League. They'll be in the dogfight a few times for the relegation battle, but I don't think they'll be too pulled into it too much. I don't think there's going to be a very tight relegation battle particularly. They've lost Dewsbury Hall, they've lost Iheanacho, they've signed Decordova-Reid, and while they may still have Wout Faes, they're at the very least without Danny Ward now, and I think 16th sounds about right for Leicester. Moving on to 15th, it's going to be Southampton. I don't think they'll be anywhere near as bad as they were their last season in the Premier League. They brought in Brereton Diaz, which I think is some pretty decent business. He was okay for Sheffield United last season, probably maybe one of their shining lights. They've also signed Harwood Bellis from City, who I think is an okay, unexperienced defender. I think they'll finish 16th, just above Leicester, despite them finishing below them in the Championship. I think they've just got a bit more about them. 15th. Now, 14th, it's a team that have really fallen apart in the past year, really, and it is Brighton. Brighton had so much about them this time last year, in the beginning of the last season, and in the end finished, 12th? I can't remember where they finished. They managed to finish behind Palace in the end, despite a massive points gap they had beforehand. They've now lost De Zerbi, who maybe wasn't as good as a manager as we thought in the end. Who knows? They've also lost talisman Pascal Gross to Dortmund. They also have already sold Undav, despite there being a very short time. I think he was a pretty decent striker, if you ask me. And I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a great season for Brighton. I think it's going to be a big downgrade from what we've thought of them and seen from them in the past. And I've really seen no big signings, although it is Brighton, so they might have just signed the next Messi. No one really knows. It's Brighton. They just pull things out of their ass, and I think they'll be lower mid-table. Now to 13th, and I've gone with Brentford. I think they have a decent bit about them this season. They've had a pretty decent window, I would say, because they've held on to Ivan Toney, although he could still be going to Saudi, who knows. They've avoided selling him to Arsenal, to Tottenham, and they've also signed Fabio Carvalho, which is the main reason I've really put them this high up, because I think Fabio Carvalho will be an excellent signing for them. Don't know why Liverpool have let him go. I don't think Brentford will be in the conversation for relegation at any point during the season. I think Thomas Frank will continue to be a great manager for them, and I think 13th will be where they finish. In 12th, now this was tough, but I went with Crystal Palace, despite how good they were at the end of last season under Oliver Glasner. I think the loss of Michael Olise is absolutely immense for them, and they'll just stay in 12th. I mean, in the past, 9 years, they've not finished below or above 40 points. I doubt that'll be the same this season. I think they can probably finish with about 50, but I think 50 might only get them 12th. I think there's some very, very quality sides this season, and they have managed to keep hold of Eze. I think Mateta could be good for them, but I think it will just be 12th for Palace. Although I could heavily end up regretting this decision, and we'll see. And in 11, I went with Fulham, because I think Fulham have had an excellent transfer window. They've got Sessegnon back, they've signed the likes of Smith Rowe and Jorge Cuenca, and I think it could be a very good season for them. I think 11th is maybe a bit harsh. They could even finish higher, they could even push for Europe, but we'll see how it goes in the end. Them and Palace could be two predictions that I greatly regret. Now, breaking into the top half, we have first Newcastle United in 10th, and I think this is probably an even further disappointment from last season. They are without Europe, they do have less games to worry about, but I still think 10th, despite having Isak, who I think is a generational striker. I just think there are teams ahead of them that have had even better, have had really good windows that have put them ahead of Newcastle in the end. Moving up to 9th, and I have put Andoni Iraola's Bournemouth, and I think despite the departure of Solanke, it'll still be another record points total year for Bournemouth. I think they're going to have a cracking season under Andoni Iraola, who I think is probably one of the best managers in the Premier League. I was tempted to put them even higher. I was tempted to put them in 7th into like Europa League contention, but in the end I've had to put them lower because they're clearly better teams, and I think Andoni Iraola's magic does not extend so far. I mean, he had Rayo battling for Europe, and look when he was at, and look how much they fell apart immediately the season after, close to relegation, and I think they will get relegated this season. And it was due to Andoni Iraola that we had that incredible season. 8th, I think, will be Chelsea. I think Chelsea's season will go similarly to last season, but just a tad worse. They'll start off poorly with their a million new signings needing to gel together at the beginning of the season, causing poor results, and then towards the end of the season they'll gel more, have a good run, but because it's, in my opinion, an objectively worse manager, they won't have quite as good as a run towards the end of the season and finish just a place back. In 7th, I've gone with West Ham because they have had, quite frankly, an incredible window. They've got the likes of Nicholas Füllkrug, who had a decent Euros. They've got the likes of Todibo, great defender. They've got Guido Velasco, another great signing. I think they're going to have a very good year, and I think they're going to squeeze Europe. I think they'll squeeze above Chelsea, get in 7th place, and just be a very good team. Moving on into 6th place and into the Europa League, and I've gone with Aston Villa. And now I know it's perhaps even improved side, but I think there are other sides that are even more improved than them and will have far better years, and Aston Villa will be moved down 2 positions despite probably being a better team than they were last season. They've got Maatsen and Onana, but I think the teams ahead of them are just better. They'll also have the Champions League weighing on them. While I do know they had Europe last season, Champions League is just different. In 5th, I've gone with United, and this team shouldn't be finishing 5th. This team should definitely probably be finishing higher than this. They've signed De Ligt, they've signed Xerxes, and this is definitely a better team, and this team should definitely be finishing firmly top 4, although 5th could still be Champions League. And I just think the teams ahead of them are better than them. And it's United. They've been terrible. They've been every season that people have expected them to do. Oh, they'll finally be back this year, and they never are. They just never are. They're perpetually shit for some reason. And although it's better than last season, it's not really where they want to be, is it? 5th place. In 4th, I've gone with Liverpool, and this might be a bit harsh, but I think it's the first season without Klopp. That's a big transition, and obviously first season under a new manager, there might be a big new manager boost at the start of the season, then problems might arise. And they've not signed anyone thus far, although they could be signing Zubimendi, but even then I don't think that's a massive upgrade into the team. They've lost Fabio Carvalho, who's, I don't know why they've let him go. He's a good rotation option. I think it's not been a good window for them, and it's mediocre at best if they sign Zubimendi in the end. Although I could be mistaken. Arne Slot could be a generational manager. He's got the bold energy. We'll see. With 3rd, I've gone Tottenham, and this looks obviously absolutely biased, and it probably absolutely is. But I'm stoked. I'm stoked to see how this team might perform into the league. I think Solanke is a great upgrade into striker. I think striker has been where we were really lacking last season. We could have done so much better with Kane in that squad, and we've got a player who's very good. He's not as good as Kane, obviously. I don't think there's a striker in the world right now that is as good as Kane. Probably there isn't really, and hopefully we can get a winger later in this window. But I think 3rd place, I think, is about right for Tottenham. I think this is going to be a very good year. It's Ange's 2nd season. He's settled in. He's fully integrated. And I think this is a very good squad of players who are gelled and are ready to take this season by storm. 2nd, and this would determine, obviously this will tell you who I've put for the title winners. 2nd, I have gone Arsenal. I think it's going to be 2nd again for them. If they bottle the league or if they just finish 2nd, I have no clue. All I know, Arsenal are going to finish 2nd. They're not going to win the league. They just aren't, and quite frankly, I don't think I could ever bring myself to predict Arsenal winning the league, even if they fucking 5-peat the league. I in any of those 5 years, or the year after, or whenever, I can bring myself to predict Arsenal to win the league. What do you take me as? Either way, they've had an okay window. They've signed Breyer permanently. They've bought Calafiori, making that solid defence even more solid. But even then, the first pick, who is City, obviously. They're just inevitable. First is City. Obviously, first is City. They're the winners of the Premier League. They'll be the winners of the Premier League until time ends. Like, they're perennial title winners. I don't think will be another. I don't think there'll ever be a year I don't predict them to win the league. There might be years they don't win the league, but even then, I don't think it'd be fucking stupid. This is the one that never. This is the easiest prediction ever. Just say City will win the league, and you'll probably be right every time. And well, those are my Premier League predictions. If you think I'm fucking stupid, tell me. And if you think I've got this pretty spot on, you can also tell me that. And with all of that, I'm done. Thank you everyone for watching. I've got links in the description, everything like that. If you're new, leave a sub and a like. And if you're not new, then just leave a like. I've been Ollie Mudkip, and I'll see you next time.